the West and the Gardener King. That there's parts of Westeros that have been in different kingdoms at any given time.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Martin does, you'll notice, is I'm pretty sure in every land there is at least one lesser house that is like a persistent problem. There's the Boltons, there's the Freys, and to a lesser extent the Blackwoods and the Breakins.
The Florence as well in the south, yeah.
Florence. There's the
Ironwood, I think,
the
in
Castemirs.
Yeah.
And what was the other house that Tywin
Rains and Castemirs, yeah.
The Rains and the Castemirs. So, I mean, that's another thing about the sort of thinking about this historically, is that the idea of political hegemony, that there is one king and he is a universal power, was a very late development.
Yeah.
You can go from, William the Conqueror, who really was, at the time of his conquest, one of the most powerful rulers in Europe, and, someone who owned, basically all of England, and could give it away as he chose. To just a few generations later, you have this period in English history called the Anarchy, where for, 20 or 30 years, no one can control England, and barons are, basically kings on their own behalf.
I also find interesting that a lot of the families had been kings at some point, like the Lannisters and the Starks, but and then the ones that weren't, like the Tyrells, they were never kings. They're very ambitious now, or want to make up for it.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of, it's an interesting sort of persistent theme that, how difficult, I mean, granted, dragons make up for a lot, but after the dragons left, how, you have to kind of give credit to the Targaryens for hanging on as kings when most of their, great houses have better pedigrees than they do. Starks have been kings in the North for 8,000 years. The Targaryens are parvenus. But
well, I think they're making that alliance with Dorne was really smart, because that Dorne had been such an enemy for so long time that making them friends was good, because if they'd been still enemies, they would have broken away right away. I think.
And they also married into the Arryns.
Yeah, I think so.
They had the Baratheons as cousins, and they married lesser, but important lesser houses in other kingdoms, like high towers for the Reach, etc. So that they'd know that they always had loyalists around the place.
Yeah. But I see it more as coasting. They were kind of coasting, and it was waiting for something to shake it up. Although if you follow Stefan's theory, people were already looking to shake it up with the whole Southron ambitions things in the generation before.
Yeah, I see it more as a series of makeshift attempts at reform.
Yeah.
Which is, in my series on the Hand, there's clearly periods in which the Hand really does have effective control over Westeros.
Yeah.
And then there's periods where it all goes to shit and no one's in control. And then there are efforts to do things about it. So the Great Council is a great example, right? This sudden innovation that now the lords can name the king. Big change. Big change. Or, the Southern Conspiracy, or Rhaegar's nebulous plan, that there were constant efforts to try to bring together enough of a majority to kind of hold things together, but then you'd have a Blackfire Rebellion, or you'd have the Dance with Dragons, or you'd have the summer sickness, and then just anarchy throughout the kingdom. And so it's sort of one after another, you patch things together, and it lasts 30 years, it lasts 50 years, it lasts maybe 100 years. But that, because there isn't a systemic solution that's ever put in place and holds together, that it was bound to crack.
And the Seven Kingdoms are really big when you compare them to other territories to have a single political unit.
God. Although, the thing that kind of amazed me when I actually sat down and thought about it is the Raven are actually a really good vehicle of communication. They can make the journey between Winterfell and King's Landing in about under 3 days. Compared to actual European history, where you were lucky to have, communications within 100 miles, that's not bad. But still, they're dealing with an enormous, bigger than any medieval monarchy that I can think of, except maybe Charlemagne. And even then, look how long that lasted.
And also, the Maesters as well have done amazing work. The fact that people can understand each other at all from north to Dorne, even with like the accents, is pretty interesting.
The Maester conspiracy. I have no idea what that is.
Stephen, I picture you sitting in front of your computer monitor with all these books and pencils and calculators and trying to do the math to find out the right equation. How long does it take a raven to fly across?
Oh, I've worked it out. You know what I do? That really great map on GameOfThrones.net?
Yeah.
What I've done is like a billion different times hold something up to the screen to give myself a ruler and mark it off 100 miles, 200 miles, 300 miles, and then like just go like a protractor across the continent and figure out, like, for example, could Robb Stark have gotten from Ashmark to King's Landing in time to be there for the Battle of Blackwater? Or could Tywin have gotten back if he'd been able to cross the Red Fork in time, and a lot of this has to do with, how fast can horses move? How fast can armies march? How fast can ships move? How fast can a raven fly? I tried to figure out, for example, like what was the gap between the end of book 1 and the beginning of book 2? And I worked it out that the minimum time that it could be was, I think, 2 weeks, because that's like going flat out between the Green Fork and King's Landing would take about 2 weeks.
I think George Martin hates you. That's...
Well, hey, it's his fault for saying that the wall was exactly 300 miles. That's how everyone got him.
Yeah.
But
that's why I really want to buy the World of Ice and Fire.
Yeah. One of my favorite stories about Abraham Lincoln is when he was during his law practice days, and his partner came in one morning, and Lincoln was up the whole night, trying to square a circle. He taught himself geometry for the exclusive purpose of trying to square a circle. I think that's what you're doing.
Yeah, it's my compulsive need to overanalyze everything that I consume. That's what Graduate School has done to me.
Well, on that note, this must be what you guys go through. I mean, with your podcast, I thought this would be like a little 15-minute, quick discussion about an audiobook, quick discussion about a question, and now it's like, what, an hour later?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've had some good chats, though. We'll just leave it in there.
Absolutely. So thank you for joining us, Stephen.
All right, thanks for having me on. Adios.
I totally understand why people don't read spoiler chapters. I actually read a lot of spoiler chapters before Dance with Dragons came out, and that had a negative effect because she only read a lot of the material. To me, it was new. So
yeah, I can see that, definitely.
I'm very pro spoiler.
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah, the study that came out that showed that spoilers don't actually negatively impact people's enjoyment of media products. I'm very much in that attitude. I love. For me, like, half of the fun I get is from the execution, as opposed to the surprise. I mean, there's a few things like, oh, damn it. What was that movie with the Irish movie with Forrest Whitaker and Stephen Rea? Crying Game.
Yeah.
Like, something like that where it's all about a twist, I can see. But for most media, I like to kind of have the scenario set up so that instead of trying to keep track of what's going on, I can kind of take in all of the detail.
I'm pro-choice on spoilers, so I like people to have the choice whether they want to be spoiled or not.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.